And this is Unstick Your Art, and I'm so excited that all of you are here. I'm Beverly Todd, and I am the owner of Santa Fe Artist Getaway, but also an abstract painter and a creativity coach. So what we're going to talk about today is the very things I use in my coaching and workshop teaching with other artists. And it's, I think, one of the most important skills to learn for any artist. So first, the housekeeping. This is going to be a quick 30-minute presentation. And then at the end, we'll open it up for questions and answers for about 15 minutes. And I'll stay as long as anyone has questions. And that's what we'll do. So let's get it started. Take a deep breath. Whew. Relax and enjoy the next hour. I hope you have some hot tea or a soda with you. So if you're an abstract artist, you know this feeling that you're buzzing to get excited with a piece of art. And you've got that beautiful blank canvas on the wall. And you're just about ready to get started. And then you freeze because you're like, oh, the canvas is too pristine, so beautiful. Where do I start? That's one scenario. And then the other scenario that we often get to is we have a fresh start. We've got beautiful marks. We're having fun. We're playing. And we get to the middle and we realize now we have to start pulling it together to start editing. And then we freeze there because we're like, I don't know what to do. This is beautiful over here. I don't want to ruin it. So that's the second place where we get stuck. And, you know, we all have it, every single one of us, no matter if we're a beginner to an advanced artist. And it's because the way we work as an abstract artist or an experimental artist is the process. We don't always know what the outcome is going to be. So the process of making the art is more important than knowing it's going to be a barn, a cat, a dog. So objective, realistic artists know exactly where they're going. Abstract artists, experimental artists, it's the process that takes us to the end. So having a set idea of what your art's going to look like in the beginning will freeze you up and get you stuck. So we're going to talk about three things today. The first one is why we get stuck. The second one is how to get beyond I love it, I hate it, and get unstuck, how to read your art. And then the third thing we're going to talk about is my secret weapon, the Big Yes Spark cards. And these are 90 creative prompts that will help you get unstuck at the beginning, the middle, or the end. So let's get started. I put a couple notes up here. I don't know how well you can read this, but why do we get stuck? We just talked about that at the beginning. There's that myth that the very first mark you make is going to be the mark that sets the tone. And in reality, abstract art is a process of marks. One mark leads to the next mark, leads to the next mark. So we have that myth of a perfect mark in our head. And also, we have this fear of commitment that, you know, once you put something on that canvas, you have to go in that direction. So a starting of a painting can freeze us for a couple of different ways. And then in the middle of our painting, we can have something called analysis paralysis. And that means we're overthinking it. All of a sudden, we freeze and our brain goes into overdrive. Is this right? Is it wrong? Should it be dark? Should it be light? And you've let go of your intuition, the process of letting your hand and your body make the next mark. So you're overthinking it and you've lost that freedom. And then also in the middle, we can be attached to the outcome of what we think the art's going to be like, or we could be attached to a piece of the art that we think is just gorgeous and we don't want to lose that, so we paint all around it and then it sticks out like a sore thumb. And so the very last thing in the middle, we can lose our objective view. We get so wrapped up in the painting that we don't let loose of it, let go of objectivity and say, okay, let's let the painting just become what it is. So here's one exercise about getting unstuck that I use. I always come into the studio before I start painting, and this helps me preventing myself from getting stuck, is to begin with this warm-up prompt. Now, if you have a piece of paper, a sketchbook nearby, pencils, colors, crayons, grab those, and we're going to do this really quick. I call it the 5-minute mess, and we're going to do a shorter version of about a minute. But grab something and loosen up. Get messy, trust your hand, trust the process, play around with it, have fun. And let's see. Pull this down. And I just have, this is a sheet of watercolor paper that's been gessoed. And to be honest with you, I start like this almost every single time. I get the paints out I'm going to use, but I put up a piece of scrap paper and I just play. So this is trusting the process. And I just have a bunch of crayons that I grabbed. You can use paint, crayons, markers. I have kids' paint I use sometimes. It helps you let go of the preciousness of what you're doing and really get into the flow. So go ahead and start scribbling. Follow your intuition. Let me see if you can see that. Sometimes I'll do this with my eyes closed, or I'll turn around backwards. I mean, I'm just trying to loosen up and get things going. This is like a kid would create, with that freedom and being just as playful as you can be. And this works if you're working with just pencils or graphite. Let's see, what other color? So that's, a quick 1 minute at the most of just scribbling, playing, loosening up, getting your body in the flow. And when you can do a warm-up exercise like this, when you first walk into your studio, it does two things. First of all, it helps you shift from what's going on outside the studio door, the phone calls, the dirty laundry, the things that need to get done. And as you move over the threshold into your studio, it gets you into this loose, free place where you can trust your hands, your heart, and you can let go of overthinking. So warm up like this. And sometimes these warm-up exercises, I had one laying here. Guess I threw it away. But sometimes these warm-up exercises turn out to be your best art because you're not overthinking it. You're totally free. So warm up anytime you start. Oh, yeah, here it is. So this is a warm-up exercise I did before I started on a big painting. It was free, it's loose, it's messy, it's fun colors. I didn't overthink it. And this one I might just matte because it has this freedom with it. So that is one great way to get started and make sure that you're not overthinking, you're trusting the process. So abstract art sometimes is called process art. The process of making the art is the art. You as the artist, you are the artist. Not the finished piece that is the art, but how you go there step by step, letting the marks tell you what they're going to become. So here's a couple other things about getting unstuck. Embrace failure, embrace messiness, embrace the process of not knowing where it's going, and stop overanalyzing, stop overthinking. Stop worrying about if this is right. The next thing you can do to get unstuck is to define your next step. So take it one step at a time. Don't think about what it's going to be at the end, but what is the next easy step, the next simple step, the next movement you can do with a piece of the art. And this last one ties in. You're prioritizing the process of making it versus the outcome, the thought, the overthinking of it. So these are some tips on getting unstuck. So let me move this up here. So one of the things I see so often, especially in beginning artists that are starting in abstract, they look at a piece of art and they say, I love it or I hate it. And so you have this emotional energy welling up as you're making your art. So what we want to do is get rid of this, get rid of saying I love it, and get rid of this. Get rid of saying I hate it. I want you to be totally objective. And instead, in its place, you need to ask yourself this: what is really happening in my art? So this next step, this is part 2. We're going to talk about how do you read your art? How do you step back from it and be objective and see what's going on with fresh eyes without saying, I love it or I hate it. So here is a quick tip. Move your art or move your body away from your art. The bigger your painting, the further away you need to get from your art. At least 5 foot away. My studio is probably about 20 feet wide. I will walk all the way to the other side of my studio. Get as far away as you can. Turn your back to the art and then turn around really quick and look at it for maybe 5-10 seconds. And what's your initial reading of it? What do you feel? What do you see? And your first reading like that will be your emotion. What do you feel the energy of it? Is it a happy piece, a sad piece? And then move it closer, start walking closer, and start looking at the details. So far away, the overall big picture. As you walk closer, start looking at details. And you'll start looking at individual pieces that may or may not be working as you get closer. So that's one of the first steps. So you're really doing an objective gaze, at least 5 feet away, at least for 5 seconds. The next thing you can do, let's move this piece over. This is a piece of art that I started maybe even a month ago. And I'm not sure if it's finished. Move this up a little bit. It's sitting there and I'm waiting for it to talk to me. So some things that I can do to be objective, I'll do that, move across the room and look at it. The other thing you can do is isolate areas. Props. So isolate areas. These are kind of like mats. Cut these out of cardboard and they're 2 L brackets. And what you're going to do is move these around and we're going to isolate an area. So now I've used the mats to isolate this area and I can really look at this area and see what's going on. So this is a tip. Don't try to solve your whole piece of art all at once. Isolate and work on an area and then step back. When you're working really big in abstract art, you have a tendency to, I call it popcorning. You put blue here, and then you think you have to put blue there. And in the end, you're not looking at each section. You're just jumping around. So step back and let yourself look at one section. So you can make these L brackets, and this is just a mat board. It's dirty, it's messy. I use this a lot too, that you can hold up and move around and see what's going around. So isolate it. Another tip while you're trying to solve it, you can physically take your painter's tape and mask out an area. So pretend this is longer. I could mask out this area with tape and just work on that area. And masking it out with tape helps you see just what you're working on without getting distracted by the whole thing. Another great tip is, pull these out, test different ideas. And you can use big chunks of paper to test shapes, or you can use, this is acetate, like overhead transparencies that have color on them. So before you commit, put some color on your transparency and you can move it around and see if you like it. Let me see, this is a blue one up here. What if I put blue in this piece of art? So get a piece of transparency, put your color on it, and then move it around. Test it before you put it on. And I will often do, this might be hard to see because it's a transparency. This is like an entire color palette that I'm working with. And so I have one of every color that I've mixed up. And I will take this and move it around on the canvas too. So I can say, okay, this is my color palette. Does it need the yellow here or the blue here? So it allows you to see where the color's going and where you might want it. So try that out. Let's see. The other thing I want you to think about is reading the values of your colors. This is a dark passage up here, and it's kind of quiet. So if you have a color that you want to put something next to, this is dark and dull. And so next to dark and dull, I'm going to put the opposite, bright and light. And I just happen to have some orange right here. So I'm going to show you what it looks like when you put colors together that work. So this is it's a little bit muted orange because this whole color palette's muted, but look what happens when an orange, a light and bright orange, goes next to a dark and muted green. So if your colors aren't working, I want you to look around for places like that. Now, you don't want to do this all over your canvas because it'll be too busy, but if you have a place of emphasis you want to do, read your canvas and put an opposite next to each other. And then something else that I love to do at the very end is use fluorescence. This is a tube of Holbein orange fluorescent, and I often will just take a little bit of on my fingertip and come into the canvas and accent with the fluorescent. So that's a bright fluorescent orange on top of that orange I just put on. And now there's really something dynamite happening. And so at the very end, come in with your little jewels and pretty things and highlight and finish. So there are some tips. The other thing is make sure when you stand back and read your art that you're looking at value, which means darks to lights, is it all one value? And a good tool to help you with values are these value finders. This is orange, not orange, red. They come like this. You can get them on Amazon. Quilters use these, people who sew. And when you hold this up to your eyes and look at your art, it takes it to black and white. It kind of shows you. So you can see your values. You also can take a picture with your phone, go into your phone and edit it and turn it into black and white, and you'll see your values if they're working. You may want a piece of art that has high values, high contrast, or you may want something muted. This piece we just looked at, the values are all very same. So you're going to look at value. You're going to look at your colors, what's working in the color family, the overall composition, and then the textures, the surface, what's going on. So surface would be, are there thick and thin pieces? Is there a fat, thick passage next to a thin one? What are the things that give it interest? Or does your entire surface look alike? Are all your strokes the same? Are they all big fat strokes? And again, there's no right or wrong answers, but when you can start looking at value, color, composition, and surface, then you'll be able to read your art and understand what's going on. You can let go of I love it or I hate it. So there are some tips on reading your art. Okay. So once you've read your art and you pretty much know what's going on, and you know you need to do something, where do you start? I forgot to take these lids off earlier. So now we need to just pull these off. So what I'm going to do now, this is part 3. We're getting into the part with the big yes creative prompts. So when I started developing the big yes creative prompts about a year ago, I knew there needed to be a tool that would help us think outside the box, because we kind of get stuck in our ways. Our marks start looking alike, the way we approach painting. So this is a tool that jolts you out of the same old, and lets you think and do things fresh and interpret them in different ways. So I just have a bunch of colors here. Got going. So I know some of you have these. I know Lynn has a deck. Who else has a deck of these already? So yay, raise your hand if you have a deck. The Big Yes Spark cards, they're like a deck of cards. There's 90 cards in here, and each one is a different creative prompt. So you can use these at the very beginning. So let's see what that looks like. So I pulled several cards out. And here's 4 I pulled out. Be dirty, be messy would be one way to start. Rainbow Rebellion, use lots of vibrant colors all over. All over chaos, this would go with Rainbow Rebellion. All over the canvas with marks and colors. And then the last one is use an unacceptable color. So you can pull out 1, 2, or 3 of these. You can pull them out randomly. You can go through the deck and pick out the ones that speak to you. So these 4 that I picked are all great for starting. So let's start with 2 of them. Rainbow Rebellion, using lots of vibrant colors, and all over chaos. You know, because that's the way you start. And I'm just going to grab some colors and start with all over chaos. I'm really not thinking about anything right now. And I'm not even really washing my brush out. These colors can be dirty into each other. Let's see, what color haven't I not used? Here's a pink. Okay, so there's color all over, there's chaos. That took me maybe 30, 60 seconds at the most to get a start. So that's how you use the cards to start. Okay, so now we're kind of in the middle. We had this fun start. The marks are really fresh. They're gorgeous. I love them. But we got to figure out, how do we keep moving forward? We're in that muddy middle about where do I go? So I picked out a couple of these cards that might work in the muddied middle for this painting. This one says, honor an error as a hidden intention. This one, number 64, says, take away the least important piece. And 76 says, increase one element, decrease the other. So I think we're going to do 2 of these together. Take away the least important element, we'll decrease it, and then we'll increase another. And, you know, when I work with these cards in workshops, people will often ask me, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, you're the artist. The prompt is a launching pad. You decide what that means for yourself or your piece of art. So let's see, we're going to decrease something and increase another. You know, I'm really loving this dark red. So let's increase the dark red and let that be more of the story on this piece of art, and decrease some of these other colors. And I'm kind of pushing back the orange. And this is wet into wet also, so the red's kind of going into the pinks. Okay, I think that's more interesting now. Before, all the colors and shapes were kind of similar, and now we know that red is the star of the show. It's got some weight, and the other colors are pushed back. Okay, so let's say we are at the very end of this. And I always say, you know, when you feel like your art is 75, 80, 85, 90% done, that's when you want to step back and start looking slow. Slow down at this point and really read your art and decide what it needs. So I pulled out a few cards for the ending of your art. The first one says, amplify the most ugly detail. 87 says, neon, make it glow. Number 62 says, wash with dirty water. This is one of my favorite things to do at the end, is to wash with dirty water or glaze that you mix up, because it will bring together all of the pieces. And the last one, 53, says, embellish and decorate. So I think we'll go to embellish and decorate. Now this is still really wet, so it's going to be hard to do it. As I said earlier, the neons, Holbein neons, are great for embellishing and decorating. Then the other thing I love to embellish and decorate with are, these are Sennelier oil pastels. And these are fabulous for coming in at the very end and adding color over color or contrast. And I don't know how well you'll see this. This is kind of a khaki olive green. And we're going to put it in on top of the red. There's not a lot of contrast there. And do you remember what I said earlier about if you have something dark and dull and you put something light and bright next to it? I think that calls for the oil pastel in orange. And then the other prompt that I really liked said, embellish the most ugly detail. Let's take a look at this. What looks ugly in here? Well, this is kind of a little odd orange down here. And it may not be exactly ugly, but you know, what's something odd that you can embellish? And your embellishments definitely do not need to be big. Okay, so there's an example of using the creativity prompts to begin, get out of the middle, and then to wrap up a piece of art. And there's unlimited combinations of them, and they're really fun. And also, if you have a deck, they come with, you know, instructions on how to use them and some tips. So, the best thing about the Spark cards is the more you use them, the more you start thinking like the cards. You'll start thinking outside the box. You won't be stuck in your same old processes about, oh, now I need to do this. So it's like training an Olympic athlete who's a good ice skater already. They just get better and better at what they do. And these cards will help you do that. They keep training you and you'll start thinking outside the box. So overall, kind of summary we've talked about today. Remember these three things. Number one is you've got to disrupt the same old, same old. Disrupt your stuckness in the beginning or the middle. And number two is read your art objectively. Get beyond I love it, I hate it. And number three is to keep moving, keep the process going. Don't overthink it, and the Spark cards can be a help for that. So the Spark cards are kind of like a non-judgmental coach. If you don't know what to do and you're used to a workshop and your teacher comes around and says, hey, try this, that's just like the Spark cards, like you have them in your pocket. Okay, so thanks so much. I'm going to unmute this in a second. What I'm going to suggest today, while you're still in the studio, once we get off this call, is go do that 5-minute exercise we started with and see if you can kind of disrupt your flow and get into this new place of creating. And then just have fun in your studio. So I want you to go on your way today and make a bunch of messes. All right, let's unmute everybody. And if you have questions, and I am, let's see, unmute, mute all. Okay, if you are already muted, unmute yours. I'm trying to see here. Boop, 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 more. Technology. Okay, I see Ginger's unmuted. So, yeah, looks like you guys are unmuted now. Okay, questions, observations, aha moments.
I have a question.
Yes.
I assume you're using acrylic paint there, all those big jars.
Yes, so yes, I'm an acrylic artist, mixed media artist. I've started to use oil sticks to finish my art, but these are all mixed up tubs. And I always begin a piece of art with a color palette selected, and then I mix up tubs of it and have everything ready to go. So I'm not stopping and starting. I know exactly what colors are going to be in the piece. Yeah.
I never have a problem making a mess.
Well, your process is a mess, right, Ginger? Yeah, that's the process, make a mess. And, it's the serendipity. So this is what I teach is mark making in the abstraction. So you make one mark. We did this really fast today. Make one mark, step back, look at it. What is the next mark that goes next to it, away from it? How do the marks interact? Then make another mark. And as you're making marks, think of each mark as a word. 2 marks, 3 marks is a phrase. And then once you have your canvas filled with art or with marks, you have poetry. So let the marks tell you what comes next. Don't overthink it. Go with the flow.
Bev, what
Yes.
about, you said you do pre-select your color palettes. How do you do that? That's kind of a hard thing.
Oh, that's like a whole, year-long study of color. But let me see if I got something quick here. Like this was a color palette that I used in a past piece of art. And so quick tip, go to the paint store and pull out a paint chip of every single color and throw them in a shoebox. And when you start painting, you can grab those paint chips and mix and match and pick your color palette. And then from those paint chips, then mix them up. So these were all the colors I had mixed for one painting. Also, I recommend starting, with a limited color palette and creating a mother color that you can pull from. So mother color just means, let's say I have 3 parent colors I'm using. I mix a little bit of each of those colors into the mother color and have this pool. Then if you mix those back in, the palette will always go together because they're mixed from the same colors. I rarely paint straight from the tube or the jar unless it's those fluorescents.
So then it's just kind of intuitive too, which color you're drawn to.
Yes and no. I mean, you could study color theory forever. And there's color charts. You can go on Pinterest and download tons of color charts. There's color books. Actually, I do have a tip. There are 2 Japanese books called Volume 1 and 2, and it's called Japanese Color Theory. And anyway, you know how the Japanese, the anime, their whole way they color and decorate and design is so different because, it's Japan. So these 2 books are color combinations from Japan. And the book is in Japanese, but all you need to do is look at the color. Let me go grab one right here. Okay, it's called the Dictionary of Color. Janet, do you have one right there? Yep. There's 2 volumes. The first one came out like in the 1930s. This volume 2 came out recently. But they're just so cool because these are color combos that we would not normally put together. This is available at Amazon, and I have it on my Amazon storefront. So if you go to Amazon, amazon.com/store, and then I think it's /BTodd. But you can find it. I'm going to send you a follow-up email, and I'll put the link to my Amazon storefront where all those books are. Yeah. Oh, yes.
And inside the color cube are similar things where you can.
Uh-huh.
Oh, nice.
So these, Lynn and I worked together, I think it was January, almost a year ago. Yeah. So those are great too. They're a lot like the color palettes you'll find on Pinterest. Well, it'll show you a scene and then it'll pull out the colors. Yeah. So that's a good tool. That's out of Australia. That is not on Amazon though.
Sarah Renee Clark is who
Yeah.
designed these, and she's got 2 boxes and other things that are out there.
Yeah.
These are pretty wonderful.
And you really only need 1 box because there's, I don't know how many's in there. Does it say on the box, Lynn? There's a lot.
There's a lot, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see.
So I have a question for you. How much layering do you do?
A lot.
I do a lot of layering.
Uh-huh.
And then sometimes what I start with is totally obliterated.
Yes. So layering is the key to depth and interest. I start with thick gesso first, and that's my first layer, that texture, and then each layer on top of that will catch paint. But yes, layer, thick over thin, pencil over paint, go back and forth. Yeah, the more you layer, the more interesting it is. Yeah.
So I have tried, when I embellish at the end, using like an oil pastel or
Uh-huh.
something like the Sennelier, but I often find that I don't like what I've done, and you can't really remove the oil
Yes,
off of the acrylic.
Yes, you can. The Sennelier oil pastels come off with baby oil. So like a rag or cotton ball in baby oil, and you can rub it off. Yep.
Oh, good to know. Thank you.
The other cool thing about, you can put fat over thin. So you can put oil-based products over acrylic, but not the other way, because acrylic will not stick to the oil. So if you have little passages of oil, go ahead and cover it over it and then scrape back, and you'll have this kind of resist in a neat kind of, like deconstruction look. So I'll often paint over my Sennelier oil pastels and then scrape back.
Well, and if you remove it with baby oil, doesn't that also sort of defeat the purpose, because then you've got oil on top of your acrylic?
Yeah, but just keep rubbing and eventually it's gone. If you're doing big passages of oil over acrylic, no, I wouldn't do that. But if you have little things you're doing, yeah. Also, Sennelier has a spray fixative just for those oil pastels, so you can spray fixative it if you're getting close to the end. Now, I wouldn't put 10 layers on top of it, but if you wanted to layer 1 or 2 things. That's why I save the oils for the end, for embellishing.
I always get stuck when I'm doing the layering process. I guess I'm the kind of person who works a way around that one spot that I find precious.
That you love.
Yeah.
I think we all do that. We love something and then we work around it. So here's the deal. You've got to risk losing that. You've got to risk ruining a painting. You've got to push through it, because you can tell when somebody's played it safe. Their art just looks safe. So push through it. Let it go. Yep.
So hard. Yeah, and then I always get stuck at the very end. I keep wanting to add more, and it's like, when do I know it's finished? When do I know the painting is not singing to me anymore? I
Yeah.
have the worst time with that, and then I get stuck, and it sits for months because I can't figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know what? It could be done at that point too. I think the biggest challenge at the very end, one more thing might make it just pop, but one more thing might ruin it too. So you have to be careful at the end, and that's when you need to slow down and really read it much better, much closer. But if you feel like you're at the 75, 80, 85%, stop. It's probably done.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I should probably back up and walk away.
Back up and walk away. Yeah.
I always look at it like I'm right there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay.
So I play this little game with myself, with my art and other people's art. And I ask myself this question, like this piece of art. If I knew Joan Mitchell painted this, what would I think of this piece of art? I'd probably go, wow, that's amazing. But then I look at a piece of art that Joan Mitchell does, and I will say, if I myself painted that, what would I think? And I think we are very critical on ourselves. So play that game with yourself, and you might be able to see your art in a different way. Joan Mitchell's a perfect one to use it. Or pick some abstract artist that's contemporary, like a Krista Harris, or somebody you really admire. And, say, if they painted that, what would I think of that piece of art? Vice versa.
Right. I did that, and I was like, oh, that looks okay, but it's not quite enough to be that person's art.
Yeah.
The caliber is just not there for me yet.
Yeah.
So,
The other thing you can do is the list of the 4 things, the contrast, the color, the composition, and then the surface texture. Write those 4 things down on a piece of paper. Take them with you into a museum and sit and really look at a masterful piece of art and study it. and see what the masters do and how do they use those 4 characteristics in their art. So the more you study and see others, the more you can bring back what you learn from them into your own studio.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just really new.
We're all new. We're all on the journey together. You know, no matter where you are in your art career, you have these same issues, same challenges. The more you paint and the more you practice, though, the more you'll be able to problem solve and push through them without frustration, because it can be frustrating.
I'm going to the Anderson Museum tomorrow, so I'll do a quick look.
Yeah, sit down, slow look. You know, sit in front of a piece of art for a long time and slow look. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Yes.
On what we've been talking about. I always equate it to sometimes when I'm having guests for dinner and I've spent all day and we sit down to dinner and I have smelled and watched and been present in this meal all day, and I'm tired of it. I'm not sick of it, but I'm tired of it. And I don't get the nuances that my guests are having. And they're all, oh, so good, it tastes so good. But I equate that with painting as well. Because when you've been working and struggling with a painting for a long time, or even a short period of time, by the time you think it's done or you are questioning whether you need to do more, I'm just mentally, I think, exhausted. And if I take it and turn it around, or put it in a place where I can't see it for a few days or even longer, and come back to it with fresh eyes, that really helps a lot.
Yeah.
And then applying a lot of the principles that you just talked about, going forward from then on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great point, Janet. Thanks for sharing that. You can be too close to it sometimes.
Definitely. Yeah.
So will you put a link in the follow-up email for the cards as well?
Yes, so the follow-up email will have the recording link, the cards link, the Amazon storefront. I think those will be the 3 things.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right. Who's going to stay in their studio and paint now? Yay! I love seeing that. All right.